Hey Forkers, it's Janello. On this week's episode, I'm really excited to share with you an experiment we've been doing with this tomato plant and the one on the roof all summer long. Let's get into the video. All right, so here's what's up. So this year I planted these pork chop tomatoes for the first time. I planted two different pork chop tomatoes. I did a little bit of an experiment, one on the roof of this garage, and then one I planted in my backyard normal. I wanted to see if the roof sun was better than the backyard sun. That was my initial experiment. But then my buddy Ben was like, maybe you want to think about doing some water deprivation. And I was like, what is that? In essence, it's like dry aging a steak. So a steak is flavorful and delicious when it's first cut, and if you then age it, what you're doing is you're removing water from the steak and therefore intensifying the flavors. Similarly to like a reduction sauce, right? You take balsamic vinegar, for example, and you reduce it down. You're evaporating some of the water that is in the vinegar that makes up the vinegar, and you get a more intense, and if you go far enough, almost a syrupy consistency because you've taken so much water out of that vinegar. So with the tomatoes, it was the same kind of idea, except not removing water from the fruit, obviously, but not giving it as much water as it grows. Now that could be scary because you could kill the plant, or you could get blossom rot, and you can get all sorts of problems with it. And so because I did this experiment on the roof, I could not get up to the roof as often. And then with that little seed from Ben in my brain, I was like, well, maybe I'll try the water deprivation up on the roof plant and then deal with the plant in the backyard the normal way that I would normally run my watering schedule. And what you see in front of me is the result of this. These are the same seed, same seedling grown in the same place. The difference is this was grown on the roof and deprived of water, and this was grown in the backyard and given plenty of water. Now, besides the obvious shape difference, the other thing that's immediately apparent is the color difference. This is a much more intense orange, and this is a much lighter yellow. If we look at the bottom, the patterns are there on both, so you could still see the sort of the tiger stripiness that they both have. But again, this water-deprived one is a little bit more intense than the regular one. This is the part that I've been waiting for the whole season, really, is let's cut into these things, let's give them a taste. So let's start with the regular one, because I've had a bunch of regular ones already. You know, nice. There's some pink in there. Normally, there's a little bit more pink down the bottom where it intensifies there. But, you know, it's a beautiful tomato. All right, now let's cut into this one. Now, I'm dying to see what this looks like inside. A little more intense, still yellow. I mean, they kind of look the same inside. Now, let's get these out of the way. And you know, I know you've seen on the side here, I've got tinier ones. So they grew at all different sizes. You know, this one's about the same size as that. We got medium-sized here. All right, so first off, we'll go with the original. All right. Like I said, I know what that tastes like. I've eaten these all summer. And they're nice. In general, I don't know that I would grow them again, although through the season they got better and better at the more I sort of let them ripen, which is another reason why I'm excited about this, because these ripened for a really long time. So let's get into this guy. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Wow. That is like a completely different flavor. Exactly what I was explaining about the balsamic vinegar reductions and the aged meat. The intensification of the flavor. It's the same flavor as this, but it's much more intense. It's way sweeter, and that's what Ben said may happen, is that you could get sweeter tomatoes out of that. The sugar content is obviously more concentrated, and that's what makes that all happen, because there's less water to dilute the things that are inside of the fruit, ultimately. Oh, wow. I'm gonna go for one more of those. Yeah, it's crazy. It almost has like an apricot taste, or apricot as the rest of the world says. An apricot taste. It's sort of like at the 2 seconds after you bite it, you get tomato, and then there's this weird like hint of an apricot, which I don't know why that would be. All right, we got one more thing we got to do, because I always do this with tomatoes, because I think it enhances everything. We're gonna cut from this side. This guy. All right, and that is some finishing salt. A little salt on your tomatoes. If you've never done that, I mean, you probably have, but just salt and tomato is one of my favorite things ever. If you want to put a little olive oil on it too, that's nice, but you don't need it. So with the salt, that's going to kind of bring all of the flavors even more so onto the tongue. So let's see that taste comparison. Love it. Love it. So good. Okay. Now, Mr. Intensify here. Wow. Outrageous. But you know, I gotta say, the salt on this guy is not as good as salt on the bigger guy. It's like it stands on its own. It's like you almost don't need anything with these. Now I gotta figure out what to do with these little intense beauties. So for that, let's jump into the kitchen and figure out a quick little tomato salad. Here we go, give it a taste. Oh yeah, outrageous. Man, they're just bangers. There's so much flavor in those little guys. And it's great with the red onion, a little bit of lemon, and some of the oregano I pulled from the garden. That was delicious. That was amazing. What an experiment. I am so glad Ben said that to me earlier in the season. That is the big tomato water deprivation experiment of 2020. It's not really that big, but that was exciting. I'm glad you stayed along for the ride. So that is it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this kind of stuff, hit the subscribe button. Leave me some comments if you want to know anything that I missed about this description today. I'm Janello. I'll see you next week.